out the best in others. Each week we invite one of our members to tell a story from their personal experience about how they have tried to bring out the best in others or how others have brought out the best in them. Please welcome Kyle Nienhaus, who will now tell us how they elicit the best.
Good morning. They say I have 3 to 5 minutes, so you'll have to forgive me if this takes 6. I have a slogan that I say to myself not infrequently. What would James do?
That's very dangerous.
I thought I might abbreviate it on a t-shirt, but WWJD, oh, no, never mind. James Croft arrived at the Ethical Society as outreach leader shortly after my wife, Nikki, and I became members, and immediately I was enthralled by his presence. The smarts, the style, the really cool accent. James had it all, and on top of that, we're almost the same age, if I'm rounding. We even nearly crossed paths in Boston. I left Berkeley shortly before James arrived at Harvard in the late aughts, and I even made it out to Provincetown and the tip of Cape Cod a few times. But too early to cross paths with my future leader, though we would stand in many of the same places before meeting, at different times before meeting. My incredible reverence for Kate Lovelady opened up wholly to James, as they were a fantastic duo bringing wisdom and action to the largest humanist congregation in the world, right here in St. Louis. When Kate was retiring as leader, there was no question in my mind that James should succeed her, and I looked forward to many more years of James developing the Ethical Society, along with who he might train up into the position of outreach leader. The future was bright. Enter COVID-19. All of us were wrenched into quarantine as society ground to a halt under the threat of a deadly virus improperly contained. What was to be a celebratory send-off and invigorating inauguration for our leaders became a virtually attended, pajama-wearing meeting in a window on our computers. For James to have taken up the role of leader at this time was a daunting task, to say the least. To not only take over the responsibility of the direction of a humanist congregation at these times, but the heavy decisions to close the society's building and mitigate the maintenance of the community over these 2 years was a task new to James and literally to everyone else. James shouldered and paid what was necessary to see the Ethical Society through the storm and back into the light, only to announce that he could honestly give no more, would not be seeking further terms as our leader, and was to return to his family and homeland in England after nearly a decade in America. And the news hit like a ton of bricks. I didn't blame James, I empathized with him, for what he did for this congregation was an achievement and his assessment of himself honest. Still, it wasn't fair, and I hate to even mention this name, but this is literally Donald Trump's fault. I'm not being partisan, that's just facts. You know, I was holding forth about the whole scenario at home recently, and Nikki said to me, boy, you're really upset about James leaving. And I said, well, you know, I'm disappointed about the scenario, but really I'm fine. It's fine. It's not that big of a deal. It's totally fine. All this to say that James Croft elicits the best in me. My interest in putting all of my energy into the Ethical Society was already reaching a fever pitch before the pandemic. And upon our reopening, I dipped my toes in and found the water warm and inviting, with the feeling that, and the empowering sense that it is each and every decision that each and every one of us make that makes up the world. Mountains come out of the sea, which the bedrock of which is layered by one grain at a time over a long, long time. Seeds, sometimes dormant for many years before sprouting, become a tree one ring at a time. In this regards, James is the finest talker of talks and strongest walker of walks that I've ever personally known. One need only to meet him or hear him speak to know that his is a spirit overflowing with spirit, one that gives away oneself and must give away oneself. This is no small task. In fact, it is the greatest task we should all continually strive to be worthy of. I have another slogan that I coined, the inspiration for which is taken from Felix Adler and tempered by my experience with James Croft. Become leaders unto yourselves, for by doing so, you inspire others to become the same. To me, James is the philosopher become sage, a strong voice par excellence for prose, poetry, and song, and I shall never fail to be inspired by him so long as I live. So James, I'll miss you, I love you, and I thank you for eliciting the best in me and us, and I wish you the best.
Thank you so much. That was quite sweet. I appreciate you.